Capacity is determined by technical competence, managerial competence, financials, market size stroke profile, service offerings stroke income lines, pricing strategy, etc. I mean, if a Shell were to come to a typical bank to come ask for financing to finance an oil exploration deal, we want to know if Shell has the capacity. And I mean, possibly even without thinking, there's already a feeling in the air that they have the capacity because they've been in that business for long. They have a huge financial war chest. Their income lines are very clear. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about. You don't have some guy who's possibly a farmer in his village saying he has an oil block. He wants us to finance it. We are then asking ourselves, does this man know what he's talking about? I mean, just trying to break it down. You know. Then for capital, we are saying the money the promoter has invested in the business, evidencing his commitment to the business. If you recall, when you want to go take a facility from a typical finance house, they will talk about equity contribution. Because, in fact, that's why most times I don't like things being free. I tell you, if people, for instance, have been made to pay to register for this event, even if it were just 20 people that paid for the registration, I tell you, 19 at the minimum would have been here. Are you following me? But because it's free, I mean, I haven't committed anything anyway, so even if I don't come, I'm not losing anything. So I like to say, no, people must contribute a token so that there's a commitment. There is a commitment. There is something you would lose if you didn't come. There is something you would lose if you didn't pay attention to that business you have sought financing for. But if you don't put your money down and you're using other people's money from head to toe, you can even be sleeping at home rather than go to work. I tell people who in paid employment say, this work is difficult to blah. I said, no, except you don't want to succeed. When you run your own business, you even work harder. Except you don't want to succeed. And in fact, you are lucky. I mean, when you are in paid employment, they must drop your salary at the end of 30 days. There are some days you would even close very early. There are some days if the window is clear, you go late. Saturdays and Sundays, you don't go. But when you run your own business, if a client says, meet me at 10 p.m. on Sunday, you will find your way there. That time, you remember that you would even forget that third mainland is dangerous because you need the money. But if you were in paid employment or you are an employee, this my boss is very wicked. How can he expect me to be out of the house at 10 p.m.? I tell people, I mean, in the course of working in KPMG and Nexon, where I trained, I've been on Neko Bridge at 2 a.m. And you know what? I got home. I mean, that's not the model anyway. But it was necessary at that time to stay back to get certain things done so that you could collect your checks from the client. And we did that. And the only thing that happened was that, okay, the next day, rather than resume at about 8 a.m., you possibly resumed at about 10 because you had to sleep a bit. But you know what? Before you went home, the objectives for which you stayed back had been achieved. And your checks were going to drop. And I also am an apostle of the fact that work does not kill. And the moment you have that kind of approach, I tell you most times, success is assured. Then, of course, you have character, a measure of integrity and trustworthiness, your credentials and references, credit reports, references from customers, etc. Then you also talk about collateral. I mean, we're trying to break down further now the 5 C's of credit. Collateral, secondary repayment source, then conditions, purpose of the loan, local economic climate and conditions within the industry. I mean, just generally ensuring that the operating environment will favor the survival and achievement of the goals of that business. I mean, if you're coming to ask for financing and then we are almost certain that government is going to roll out a policy in the next 1 month that will literally put you in a tight corner as with respect to, doing sales and even engaging in production, we won't like to give you money. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So in assessing whether you will be a good credit customer, it's going to be a combination of internal and external factors. Internal factors being, okay, your capacity, your character, collateral, and external factors too, because you are operating in an environment that's affected by policies most times beyond your control and outside your control. Okay? I mean, look at the guys. If I were in the business of selling Okadas in Lagos, and I went to stock Okadas, for instance, that I should sell, say, for the next 6 months, I'm in bad shape right now. Because the guys who ride Okadas are training away, and those who had the hopes of buying, or plans of buying, are not going to buy anymore. So technically, my business has been affected by governmental policies that are clearly outside my control.
You have stock these motorcycles as a kind of business that you want to sell to people, and this governmental policy came up, and it has to spoil the business. How can you re-strategize, and what can you advise for one to do?
Okay. There's always a way out. I think that's very clear. Perhaps I might not be able to tell you straight for that particular business what you would need to do to ensure that you don't lose all of that stock, or that stock does not lie down there indefinitely without you being able to sell it. I think my approach would be to say, all of the other people in my kind of situation, what are they doing to wriggle themselves out? Now, even outside this environment, or even in the larger environment, people who have found themselves in this kinds of situation, even in other industries, how have they typically wriggled themselves out? If some of those things, if you can find answers to some of those questions, I am very certain you can draw insights from those answers and then fashion a solution for your kind of business. But are we in a situation where there is no solution? I would like to think no.
Oh, I'm going to do so many things. I can say this for the next 4-5 hours, what I am going to do differently, from my finances to my planning, strategy, even to my etiquette, the way I talk, the way I conduct my businesses. Customer service is awesome. Professor Awoshika was great. She taught it in a different dimension. Talking about ethics also, it's like I'm going to do those differently. Also, my marketing, it's another area that whereby we've been taught how to innovate in that area. Talabi was also great when he taught us about innovating business, how I can innovate on my business, and like Awoyemi told us, smell money, have a eye for problems and solve those problems. I think that's where money comes from. So I think those are the major areas that help every businesses to succeed, even in this our own economical terrain. And I'm going to do those differently. At least my finance is one key thing, because that's one key area that the guy from Fidelity Bank has really helped us, and also the guy from Bank of Industry. I'm going to make use of all the materials, the resources that they've given us, even the opportunities to bank with them, to also work with them. I'm going to make use of those opportunities efficiently. My business must grow. It doesn't have a choice. It must grow. I'm coming back here to be a testimony.
Ebere Soniwosu. I work for Golden Apex Energy, Gecko Limited. Before I came to the program, I expect the program to add value in terms of empowerment and entrepreneurship, helping the participants to gain wider knowledge, about how to run their businesses effectively, customer service, and then we talk about also building business from the scratch and taking it to a greater height. The session that dealt on strategy, business strategy, and also customer service, those are really very key areas that I quite appreciate. Because for you to run your business effectively, you must, focus on your strategy, your game plan, and then what market, your target market. You should be able to, lay emphasis on those areas for you to make a meaningful progress. I intend to, first of all, pay much emphasis on service delivery. There should be zero tolerance for complaints. Any issue raised by customers should be taken seriously. Because it's easier to retain a customer than to win a new customer. So that's one major thing I'm taking from this. And like I mentioned before, issue of a strategy. You must have a clear strategy on one, how you will grow the business, and also how you will beat competition.